Hey, welcome back to Holt Garage. Thanks to all the men and women of uniform that have served or are currently serving, and also special shout out to the first responders. Thank y'all for y'all service. All right, let's get right into it. All right, so as promised, today we're going to be installing this 2-inch lift kit. It's made by Rough Country. We'll be putting that on the front, hopefully leveling this truck out a little bit, and I'm going to show y'all every little thing that you need to do. Here's the lift kit. Like I said, it's a 2-inch leveling kit. It's for 2007 to 2018 Silverado 1500s. It's also 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive applications, and you can also use this same kit on 2007 through 2020 Chevy and GMC SUVs, the Tahoe and the Suburban as well, I believe. So it's a pretty cool kit. I got this particular kit from American Trucks. It was $69.95. It comes with 4 bolts and then these 2-inch lift spacers there. I opted for the cast aluminum spacers. They do come in a I believe it's like a poly rubber / plastic, but I opted for this. I spent a little bit more. I think it was like $20 more or something for this cast aluminum spacers. So anyway, the kit comes with, like I said, these 4 bolts, 4 nuts, and then 8 washers. And then it also comes with these little decals. It's just warning decals to let you know that your truck, the center of gravity's changed, and it's going to steer and act different. Some tools you're going to need is you could either use a 3/8 drive ratchet or a 1/2 inch drive, but it's a 17mm bolt and then a 17mm nut. So I have my open end 17mm here as well, and then I'm going to use this torque wrench. I'll go over the torque specs in a minute. And then a tape measure, a good light, and then you can use a level. You don't have to. I'm going to show you how to, why I'm going to use this level. You can use your Zip-O-Matic 5000 or whatever you want, but I'm not going to do that. If you do use that, obviously get the adapter for your socket for that. But also, you're going to need a good jack. So this is a 4-ton Craftsman professional jack. I've had it for like 10 years. It's a pretty good jack. A couple of good jack stands, and then like a wheel chock. You're gonna need a tape measure, and then like a piece of paper. I took measurements of the front suspension right here. I've got it measured at 36.5, and then I measured the rear at 38 3/4. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. Also, that torque wrench, we're going to use a final torque of 30 to 35 foot-pounds. And then if you have a inch-pound torque wrench, you're going to go to 384 inch-pounds for your final torque on your 17mm bolts, these bolts right here. But, you guys can do this. It's simple. It's 4 bolts. Right now, Rough Country, if you go to their website, actually, you can get this kit for $34.95 right now. So that's a heck of a deal. It's a pretty good little lift kit here. It's really universal. You can use it on 4-wheel drive, 2-wheel drive. It does come with these instructions and everything. Pretty much like the only thing I'm going to use in these instructions is this final torque right here, which is what I just showed you, 30 to 35 foot-pounds for the 10mm bolts. And the reason is because I don't want to have to take apart my ball joints. I don't want to have to take apart my struts or anything like that. There's kind of a cheat way to do this, and this only works if your vehicle's 2-wheel drive though. If you have a 4-wheel drive Silverado or Tahoe, the CV axle is going to be in your way, so you will have to, I believe you'll have to separate the ball joints and upper control arm and stuff like that. But if you have a 2-wheel drive, you're in luck, and I'll show you guys. So yeah, we're just gonna kind of like throw those away. All right, let's get to it. All right, so you want to make sure your truck's on pretty level ground before you measure it, but I'll show you guys that measurement right quick. So this is the front of the truck. Basically, you're just gonna put your tape measure all the way to the ground, and then obviously you want to make sure that all your tire pressure is the same. So whatever you're running for tire pressure, just make sure that you're running the same on all 4 tires. The first measurement, like I said, is about 36.5. You can see it right there. But yeah, you're just going down to the center line of the wheel all the way to the ground, and then you want to do that on all 4 corners, and then just pencil in, you know, where your measurements are at. So here's the back wheel. As you can see, the back sets up quite a bit higher. I've got that one at about 38 3/4 right there. So yeah, same thing. You want to kind of make reference marks like on a piece of paper, just to kind of see where you're at. Here's where the level comes in. You can kind of see that right here that the truck is not level. The front has like a nosedive. The factory does this so that you can pull a trailer, and you know you've got a little bit more of a rake to it from the factory. So if you're hauling heavy loads and stuff like that, the trucks are made to haul stuff, so it's going to level out when you put something in there. But you know, a lot of people don't like that look, that nosedive look. So, but this kit is a way to kind of fix that look of the truck. Our goal is to kind of like whatever level you got, you know, it doesn't matter. But our goal is to kind of bring, you know, the front of the truck up like this right here, and then hopefully, you know, we'll get a little bit more level out of the truck there. So you don't have to use that level or anything. I'm just kind of particular about when I do stuff. I just want to see the difference of it. So, but anyway, let's get under the truck. I'll jack it up. Obviously, be safe about everything. Set your e-brake. I'm going to put that wheel chock behind the back tire, and then I'm also going to use those jack stands as well. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so I got the truck jacked up. I got my jack stands under there, and then I have my wheel chock in the back. I did set the e-brake just to make sure. Also, I forgot to mention, you're probably going to need like a pry bar and a couple screwdrivers, and then I'm going to use some WD-40 and a rag. I'll show y'all where the WD-40 at. Pretty much just the old hardware. We're going to try to get that off without snapping anything. All right, let's get under the truck. This is the driver's side front tire here. Those 2 bolts right there, that's all you're going to take off. So don't worry about how the instructions say, you know, you're going to pull all this lower control arm and all this bushings and everything. You know, if you have a 2-wheel drive, this only works if you have a 2-wheel drive. You can kind of cheat your way through this. It's like a 20-minute install. So those are the 2 bolts on the bottom of that strut tower there. Obviously you want a couple inches of clearance underneath your tires. Let them kind of hang down, and then, you know, make sure your jack stands and everything are secure before you let go on all these bolts and stuff. So we're gonna spray you can see those little nut plates at the top right there, and the hardware is a little bit rusty. It's not terrible, but probably should hit this like the night before with some penetrating oil or WD-40 or something. But if you're like me, you do everything at the last minute. So we're just gonna hit this with some WD-40 right now, and then I'm gonna crack these loose. That pry bar is gonna come in probably when we're trying to take that strut out. I'll show you how to get some clearance in there with that pry bar. All right, I'm gonna break these bolts loose. Also, don't spray WD-40 on your brake rotors. Here's those bolts. Pretty much like right there that's the bottom of that strut, and then there's another bolt on the backside. But when you spray into your wheel, you know, don't hit your rotors or your brake pads with WD-40. So I came in from kind of like this angle here and hit them that way. Just a little tip. Pretty much the same song and dance on the other side as well. Okay, so another tip. Your factory hardware is a 15 millimeter socket. So I forgot to mention that in the intro. Pretty much just get another socket. And then also these little nut plates right here, you're not going to reuse those, and you're not going to reuse those bolts either. So keep them on hand in case something goes wrong or whatever. You'll have them. I wouldn't throw them away just yet. But yeah, let's get back into it. I got my 15 millimeter now. Okay, so I switched to my Zip-O-Matic 5000. Since we're not going to reuse this hardware, I am going to reinstall it with just a ratchet and then that torque wrench like I was saying. Okay, so I got those two bolts out. They're pretty long. You can see that nut plate right there, and then you can see the strut starting to separate right there from the lower control arm. And then we're just going to wedge that. You're basically just going to wedge that spacer in there, right in between where your strut mounts to your lower control arm. You're just going to wedge that 2-inch spacer in there. It's actually about a 1-inch spacer, but the geometry of it gives you an overall height of 2 inches. You can read about it on their little website. But anyway, so yeah, I'm gonna pop these little nut plates off right here. We're not gonna reuse those. We're gonna use the self-locking nuts that the kit comes with. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna take these nuts off, and then we're gonna try to slip this spacer in. Like I said, I'm kind of doing it the cheat way. I'm not going to disconnect anything if I don't have to. So let's see how it works out. Okay, so I got those nut plates off. I got the spacer, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in. So don't put it in like that. Put it in like you want this flat piece on the bottom like that. This raised up section, that's where the top of your strut sits right there. And then this is the bottom of the lower control arm here. You want that flat part on the bottom. And you're just going to kind of wedge it right between that strut like that. And then, so eventually, I'm going to have enough space, when I use that pry bar, I'm going to have enough space to install this hardware, and that strut, or that spacer will stay in there. So, I'll show you. Back under here, I lied. I did have to end up loosening that sway brace bolt right there. It gave me a little bit of droop down on this lower control arm. So now I have, quite a bit of room in here. I can slide that spacer in. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it in, and then I'll show y'all with it installed. Okay, so you can see I got this side installed. So like I said, you remove the 2 bolts that it came with, and then the 2 little nut plates. And then you just go head down, and then there's a washer under the head of the bolt, and then there's another washer under the nut right there on the lower control arm. So yeah, head down on this one. Let's go to the other side. We'll do it. I did loosen that sway brace. There's a rear sway brace on these trucks. I did loosen that up, so make sure that you tighten that bolt back up. It's this one, and then you can see that urethane looking spacer thing, and then there's a bolt that goes all the way through that sway brace, and then it's just 2 15 millimeter bolts. Just make sure you tighten those back up. That was able to give me a little bit more drop, so I wasn't totally right in the beginning. So, but yeah, you don't have to take off your steering linkage, your ball joints, your upper control arm ball joints and stuff like that. The instructions tell you to take all this stuff off, but you really don't have to on a 2-wheel drive model. So yeah, it worked out. But I did, like I said, I did have to take off that sway brace bolt. I didn't take it all the way off. I just loosened it up to give me a little bit of droop down here. Make sure your tires are off the ground a little bit, because after you put that spacer in, it's gonna come back down a little bit right there. And that's your overall height to lift right there. So make sure you've got about 2 inches of clearance, if not more, so that you can get that droop you need to install that spacer. Alright, let's do this passenger side. Okay, so now we're on the passenger side. I got my bolts ready and my wrenches ready, and then I got the other spacer ready. And then I'm gonna hit those factory bolts with some WD-40 right quick. Also, I'm gonna disconnect that rear sway brace. The rear, it's the front steering, but it's the rear sway brace, just like I did on the other side. All right, let's get to it. I hit these bolts with WD-40, this one, and then this one. You know, we're gonna do the same thing we did on the other side. Here's that rear sway brace bolt. The top of it, I've got a ratcheting wrench stuck on the box end, stuck on the top there. And then I'm just gonna put my other one on this side, and then I'm gonna loosen that up. I got these bolts out right here, and you can see there's quite a bit of space in here now after loosening this sway brace up. So I got my spacer ready and my bolts ready. Have your hardware ready so that whenever you're working by yourself, you can just, you know, grab it and stick it in, because this is kind of one of those things where, like, if you're by yourself, you need to have like wrenches and stuff like ready to go, like right by you. Just a little tip, little help out. Also, bolt, washer, nut. So that's how you want to install that. And then this, the riding will go up and it'll kind of go like that. So, all right, I'm gonna put this side on now. Okay, so I got those bolts in. Head side down, washer, and then another washer will go on here, and then the nut. But this little pry tool right here, just kind of wedged in right there into that strut, and then just kind of like take your hand and then push it towards the tire, and that really helped me get those bolts in. This side was a lot easier after doing that side. Probably like 30 minutes, like real time. You don't have to disconnect all this stuff, like I was saying, the instructions, you can read them. If you got a four-wheel drive, I mean, I don't know, do it how you think, but you know, a lot of that stuff they tell you to take off, you might not have to, so just give it a shot, see what you think about it. I'm gonna put these nuts on here, these washers and nuts, and then I'm gonna tighten that rear sway brace bolt back down, and then I'm gonna get all my tools out and lower the truck, and then we're gonna do a little walk around. I'll show you the height difference. Okay, so just make sure when you're done that you got everything out from under the truck. You don't want to lower it down on, you know, any tools or bolts or anything like that. So, all right, I'm gonna lower it on down. I got it down jacked. I did kind of compress the front bumper a little bit, and I went ahead and went back around and measured and everything. I mean, all I do is just kind of push down on the front bumper with my knee like that, and then just compress it a little bit. But I mean, yeah, it's pretty level. I mean, here's some measurements I took. So the circled measurements here, that's after the lift was installed. So the front came up to 38.5 on the left side, and roughly 38.5 on the right side as well, down from 36.5 before the lift was installed. I used that tape measure just like I did in the beginning of the video. For whatever reason, this right backside dropped about 1/4 of an inch, you know. But overall, I mean, I did torque the bolts to about 35 foot-pounds there. So, I mean, I would say 30 to 45 minutes to install versus those instructions that they gave you. Do what you want, be safe about it, but I mean, I didn't have to disconnect all that stuff that they were talking about. And then, hey, check this out. So we're pretty level with this bedside right here. You can see at the beginning of the video I showed you guys how far off that was, but I mean, that's a pretty level truck. So, you know, it could come up maybe just a hair, but I mean, let me know what you guys think about this 2-inch rough country leveling kit install. If you guys have any questions or comments, just put them down below. I'd be happy to answer some questions. You know, it gives the truck a a pretty aggressive stance. My first video, I put these Recon Grappler tires on here, and then I promised the second video would be the rough country 2-inch leveling kit installed, but I think it turned out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.